Don't worry, I actually have the green screen set up this time, so this episode of Green Screen Readings actually has the green screen to go along with the reading. This video, I was planning it before M1K came out, and it's obviously going to come out afterwards, once we knew more about what costumes were going to be in the game. It's basically just me talking about what costume packs I would include with each costume. We don't even have confirmation that there'll be costume packs with the DLC characters, because the Season Pass stuff talks about the cameos and the DLC characters, but nothing about costumes. I don't remember if MKX added costumes alongside the characters. Injustice 2 didn't. MK11 did, so I just kind of went into this on the assumption that they'll probably do the same thing here. Because I mean, if all we get in terms of costumes, like post-launch, is just more recolors for invasions and occasionally something halfway decent, that would be terrible. That would be absolutely abysmal. Now I think about it, it's already kind of abysmal because you're going to do fire and then blood consecutively, so there's going to be a lot of red costumes. Like, you really couldn't at least divide it so it's like fire and then ice and then blood. Anyway. As usual, when I'm looking over here, I'm looking at the script and reading directly off it, and then when I look at the camera, that's me just adding on to it. I didn't have an intro, I was still unfinished obviously, so I didn't have a full script. Sometimes I do that, I'll start partway through and then work my way back to having a proper introduction. For this one, all I've got is when it starts talking about the characters. So, begin with Ermac, where I talk about what costume pack I think would be good to go with Ermac, or what is likely. First, the most obvious, Ermac. We already have the MK2 model in the game for Scorpion and Sub-Zero's cameos. There's no question we're getting that for all the ninjas. The model's there. And we always get the ninja packs, I've said it before, because it's easy to have one model, just change out the head, give it some different textures, boom, that's a full costume pack. And so if they do MK2 or 3 or even 1 costume packs for the male ninjas, currently that would apply to Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Smoke, Rain, and Reptile, of course. And if Ermac is out, him as well. So this would be the most characters one of these packs would count for. Because prior to this, the most it would go for was MK11 had 3 until Rain came out and just had the costume. And MKX there were 4 of them. We actually don't have a full set for the female ninjas this time, because it's just Katana and Melina. So, you know, there's no Scarlet, no Jade for now. Would Tanya get one? Who knows? Actually, we have the female version of the male ninja costume for the gender swaps seen in the story mode, so it's possible female ninjas could get that. But there's also been a leak of some kind of weird middle ground between like an MK2 and 3 costume for Scorpion. Might just be for the cameo, I'm not sure, but I can definitely see that making its way over. Same with Cyber Smoke and Sub-Zero with Sector and Cyrax's model. Now, I wrote this after learning about the Cyber Smoke costume, I'm pretty sure, well, the model that's in the game. But I didn't want to specify that because I was writing it before the game came out, and it was like, even if it was just after the game came out that I made this video, I didn't want to spoil that. But now it's been out long enough that I feel it's fine to say there is a Cyber Smoke model that is in the game. So that's another easy costume pack they could do, where you just take an existing model and just apply it. They probably wouldn't add cybernetic innards unless they waited until they added like a cyborg character, which they probably won't add a cyborg character to this game unless they can get another guest who fits. It just remains to be seen if MK2 costumes will release with Ermac, or separately, with Ermac getting the UMK3 costumes instead. Also not guaranteed, but Sub-Zero or Smoke will most likely get a noob colour scheme for their ninja skins. I mean, that seems pretty reasonable, I think. I don't think it's unreasonable to assume we're probably going to get the ninja costumes again, considering all 3 prior NetherRealm MKs had classic MK ninjas. I mean, they all had the MK2 female ninjas, so it's not unreasonable to assume we're probably going to get those as well. If I was really picking something different, like, I'd probably want a Revenant costume pack, just because it'd be a bit more different, and then it could be here's some characters as Revenants, because it's like the undead theme to fit Ermac. Alternatively, just a Halloween costume pack to go along with Ermac, because he's like this undead amalgamation character now. Well, he always has been, but more so now with the grey skin and whatnot. It is generally going to be interesting to see what the DLC characters get. Not Quan Chi, because we've seen what his costumes for the 3 forms are. The normal story mode version, Good Alliance, and the Evil Alliance. We've seen those costumes, so he's going to get all them. The question with Quan Chi is how many of his costumes are going to have the brown skin, and how many are going to have the white skin. Will that be depending on which skin it is? Will it be a case of like he'll have half as many different colour palettes as everyone else, but he has both of those as options? Who knows? With Ermac though, it'll be interesting to see what his other 2 versions are. We've seen the story mode version. I mean, Dark Raiden, as he was in MK11, is on the evil side. So what if one of the 2 Ermacs was the MK11 version that we never got to use? Ooh, that's good. I didn't think of that before. That'd be great. Hopefully he'll have that for the evil version, and the good version can just be like a more classic Jared or something like that. That'd be cool. For Quan Chi, I'm picturing a 3D era pack. I personally prioritise the 3D era newcomers, Nitara, Li Mei, Ashura, Havoc, to make it more of a celebration of that era, but I'd love to see Sindel, Melina and Smoke get them, because those are some really solid costumes. I've wanted to see those ones come back. Smoke is highly unlikely. A lot of people would look at that and say Smoke can't get that costume because he made a Smoke, and that would cause issues with current Fatalities with the whole skin coming off. And that was an argument people made with regards to the Deadly Alliance alternate costume for Scorpion. Actually, when I wrote the script I mentioned Scorpion, I'd want to give him one as well. Although I'm sure the team would go for Deception Sub-Zero again, maybe Dark Raiden. I did have Deadly Alliance alternate costume Scorpion, and there was one I'd want to see, but then they actually added it, so I removed that from the script. So that's just like a charred face, right? It's not a skull like it should have been. And a lot of the arguments people make will be, well, you can't do that because there's Fatalities where the skin comes off. I'm there thinking, you guys realise that gear comes off, right? Gear comes off when the characters are getting done in with cinematic moves, be it finishers or super moves. There is no reason at all why you couldn't plan it that way. Like, give Smoke his Smoke form costume and then make it that when those moves are being done he just reverts to his human form, because he can't maintain the Smoke form while he's being done in. Same with Scorpion with the skull. Is not as much of a good excuse for it, but I don't think people would mind. I know some people would, but I think most people wouldn't mind the skull turning into a normal Hanzo or Kuai Liang head while those moves are being done on him. You could really go in depth with it. Like, it'd be really cool if someone would go in and say, this move will work just fine without that happening. You know, this one doesn't have any serious interaction with the face. So that one, we can keep the skull. But for these ones, it needs to revert back. If they went specific to each one and like made it customized for each individual super move, that would be really cool. That's a lot of work. You don't really expect NetherRealm to do a lot of work for stuff like this. I mean, they didn't even give Jax's arms cybernetic innards in MK11. He just has fleshy arms. There's flesh inside his cybernetic arms that are meant to be fully cybernetic. You know? Stupid. For Takeda, I'd go with an MKX costume pack. This one would centre on the characters whose MKX costumes we never got to play with. Rain, Sindel, Li Mei, Baraka. Let us use them finally. I think that's a really cool costume pack idea. Kind of tooting my own horn here, but Rain's MKX costume is one of the most popular from what I've seen. That's one people really liked and wish they could have used. There's not as much fanfare for Sindel, Li Mei and Baraka, but those were costumes we never got to use. Baraka's is effectively a lamer version of his Deception outfit. Li Mei's was a cool outfit. I mean, Li Mei's outfits were so at least fine. I'm not going to say it's really good, but like they were good enough that MKX Mobile, when they put Jade in the game, they made an MKX design. They just took an unused concept for Li Mei and just recolored that and used that for her. MKX also considered bringing back Melina's Deception outfit but with pants. I think it looks a little better with the pants. Bring that back. I don't see why you wouldn't do that. That'd be really cool. So here's the costumes that you never got to use in MKX. Enjoy using them here with higher fidelity graphics. How cool would that be? Now for the guests. Omni-Man will likely release first to coincide with Invincible Season 2. That is in November, I believe. Well, my assumption was that he was going to release second. That would get Quan Chi first. Because I still think Quan Chi is very likely to be the first. Well, yeah, I'd say because Quan Chi is a bit more of a presence gameplay-wise with the cameo and whatnot. I could see Ermac. I mean, I feel there's no question that Takeda is probably going to be the last one released. Ermac and Quan Chi are going to be in the first three. But I expected to get an MK character first in October, but we've not heard anything about that. I can't remember how often we got them last time. I think it was like 1.5 months between characters. So I could see them having an MK character in October, and then in November to coincide with Invincible Season 2, Omni-Man. Peacemaker would just be whenever, I imagine, because I don't think he actually has anything coming up soon. I mean, unless they had a costume pack for DC to coincide with it and it was relevant, like Rain with an Aquaman suit to coincide with Aquaman's release. Unless it's something like that, he can go whenever. And then Homelander, if something properly The Boys related is coming out, he could have that there. I struggle to come up with ideas for a costume pack, aside from maybe Reptile dressed as Monster Girl as a joke. Peacemaker is naturally a DC costume pack. We had that with the Joker last time, but the picks were a bit lame. You know, like Darkseid Geras was fine. The Katana Catwoman one was just kind of lame. It didn't really fit. It just felt like it was Katana already has skin tight outfits. We can easily make a Catwoman out of it. Killer Croc Baraka, which obviously would have fit better Killer Croc Reptile, but Reptile's not in the game, so... And then there was another one. Oh, Batman Who Laughs Noob Cyber, who got an action figure made. They made a figure of the costume, which wasn't even a costume really of Noob Saibot dressed as Batman Who Laughs. It's just the Batman Who Laughs. If it was at least like Baraka Reptile, I could say sure. Like, for fuck's sake, Todd. Ashura is voiced by Susan Eisenberg and is a swordswoman. It would be a massive miss if she didn't get a Wonder Woman costume. I mean, think about it. Isn't that just the most obvious setup they could have done? It feels like that's the reason they cast Susan Eisenberg, because she's played this sword-wielding warrior woman before, let's give her another role like that, and then we can give her a Wonder Woman costume. It would probably be the Injustice 1 Wonder Woman costume, you know, the default, which is admittedly the best one they have of the... I forget if there's 3 or 4 core Wonder Woman costumes in Injustice across both games. That would be an obvious one. There is an alternative if she doesn't get that, which will come up later. With his new design and weapon, Steppenwolf is the ideal fit for General Shao, because he had the axe in... I forget if he had an axe in the Zack Snyder version, but I could easily see them having a Steppenwolf costume for Shao with the axe, because he just looks a lot like him now. Alternatively, you could make him Ares. I feel like Steppenwolf is a bit more likely just because, 1, that's a DC character that NetherRealm hasn't touched yet. 2, it's a character who's a bit more relevant to DC from an average person's perspective because he's in the films. But Ares was, but yeah, I forgot Ares was in... I forgot Ares was in Wonder Woman, which was a better film, regardless of what cut of Justice League you're talking about, so who even knows? I'd go Silver Banshee Sindel if that character was more mainstream. Like, the most mainstream she has was the Supergirl TV show, which is in like 2 episodes, so maybe not the best fit, but I couldn't think of any others. I think I was planning to find another one, but I couldn't think of any. I think an obvious cameo would be Injustice Superman. This was the thing I was actually considering expanding the video with, was guest cameos. I believe Ed Boon said that that is a possibility, which is really just a way, I think, of opening things up for cases where the rights holders don't want their character to be torn apart. So if they're a cameo, that can't be done. And so I was considering going through and giving one for each of the characters. Omni-Man, I've got no idea. Can't really think of any characters who stand out as this would be a good character to have. Let him do his fist through the chest thing on screen in a game. That would be his fatality, the way he killed the Joker. Because we don't see it in Injustice in the game, but in the comic and the animated movie we do. Let us see it in a game where it's more violent, but don't follow your instincts where you're like, oh, he puts his fist through and then he's like lifts his hand up through the head and splits it in 2 and like ruin it. Just have him do that. And then he just like lowers his arm and they slowly slide off. First person camera angle from the character's perspective, looking up at evil Superman as he looks down at them. There's just like a look of absolute disgust on his face, blood on his face, on his chest as well, to you know, the imagery of like the blood-stained Superman logo to show this is the evil Superman, character falls dead. I think that could be really effective. I don't like Injustice Superman, but I think you could do something really cool with him here. Alternatively, you could make a costume of him for Homelander. That could also work, but I think that would also depend on the rights holders, because I think you have to go through both Amazon and the person who created the comic. I assume they both would need to be consulted on this. I don't know all the conditions of these licenses, but it's entirely possible that someone involved would say, no, we don't want Superman associated with Homelander. Also, with how many fans want to see John Cena play Stryker, I'd give Peacemaker a Stryker skin, letting us see what that would look like and hopefully convince Cena to play Stryker in the next movie. Now, this could actually be easier than it may seem, because other than the gloves, Peacemaker's outfit is basically Stryker's outfit from MK9 anyway. He's like just like a shirt, like a t-shirt and cargo pants and the boots. The helmet's obviously going to be the gear. There's no question that the helmet is going to be the gear. That's of all the characters in the DLC, the one whose gear is the most obvious is Peacemaker. Multiple helmets is a thing from his show. So you'd have all these different helmets. Maybe if they're smart, they'll have some from the comics that aren't in the show. And then you can give him a cap. And that primarily works as a John Cena thing. But then you can have a recolor for the default outfit. I mean, I'm sure there'll be a Rick Flag recolor with just like the yellow shirt, but you could also have one that's Stryker's colors, blue shirts, black pants. Then you can put those together and make a custom Stryker without officially having a Stryker costume, but it would be really neat to have a proper Stryker costume for Peacemaker. And then you could show John Cena and he'd be like, you know what? Maybe the fans were right. Maybe I should play Curtis Stryker in the 3rd live-action movie, because I'm sure they'll do a 3rd one. And finally, Homelander provides a great opportunity for some fun cross-promotion. In The Boys, Carl Urban portrays Billy Butcher. In the next MK film, he's playing Johnny Cage. So I'd get Urban to portray a Billy Butcher costume for Kano and a Johnny Cage costume. Given the timing, it would have to be more of a general Johnny, not the film version specifically, because at the time I wrote this, the strikes were going on, the acting strikes, which had halted production for the MK film. I think production is starting up again soon because the strike, I'm pretty sure, is over. That was the whole idea, was it wouldn't line up time-wise. But I think even if Homelander comes last, and that's like a year from now, I still feel like the film probably won't be far enough along. Like, it will finish production, I'm sure, but I don't think it'll be far enough along that they'd be willing to show off, here's what Carl Urban's Johnny is like. So it'd just be Carl Urban playing MK11 Johnny rather than playing the film version of Johnny, if that makes any sense. Both a general Johnny, not the film version specifically, but it would still be fun. Other options include The Deep for Rain, Maeve for Ashra for the same reason as Wonder Woman, and then I would have come up with some more, but I couldn't think of anyone else. Some more would have been obvious if other characters were here, like if we had Cabal, A-Train. Black Noir for like Scorpion or Reiko or something, that could work. There's just some characters it's hard to come up with anything for currently. And for a proper guest cameo, I think A-Train is the best fit. He can do the around the world run like the Flash in Injustice, but he then runs through the opponent and explodes them like in the show. Because one of the benefits here is the cameo fatalities are largely classic fatalities. Not always, but usually they are a classic fatality with very little changed. Like when Scorpion does Toasty, they explode, yes, like in Shaolin Monks, but that's as different as it is. They didn't have him set them on fire and they run around going, like an MK4, and then maybe he like grabs them and like slices them open or something, as you would expect to see in a modern fatality. Sub-Zero just pulls the head off, Kung Lao just slices them in two, and that's it. It's all over very quickly. So it wouldn't run the risk, I don't think, that you have when you bring these finishers over into a fully playable character. Like we saw it with Jason, where Jason had the sleeping bag kill as the basis for one of his fatalities. But in my opinion, they ruined it. Instead of just being, he slams them down and that kills them, he does it like 3 times and the fucking leg flies off or whatever, and it just took it too far. Whereas if he was a cameo, I'm sure it would just be, grab them, bang, dead. Or maybe a tree spawns and you just like whack him against the tree, and that's it, it's just over. So I think there is great potential for guest fatalities with the cameos rather than the actual playable characters. So I'm sure Homelander will do some bullshit he did in the show, but it won't hit as hard as A-Train just running through someone. I feel like that's the way to go for this. But that's the video. I think discussing it here gave me some cool new ideas. That would have been neat to see in the actual video, but unfortunately it's never going to be a full video. But at least I can get the ideas out there, see what you guys think, and something came of this video rather than nothing. It just sitting in my script list until eventually I'm like, you know what, these characters have already released. I can't make the video at all now anyway, even if I want to. Have to delete it and do nothing with it. But at least something came out of it, and at least I got the green screen up this time, so there's that. What do you guys think would be cool costumes to go along with the DLC characters? It don't have to be the same theme, it could just be, this character is vaguely Halloween themed, let's do some fun Halloween costumes. You could discuss guest cameos. It's a shame we never get guest arenas. Like, we haven't had one of those since Kratos. And you look at Soul Calibur and you look at Tekken, and they always do that with their guests, but MK just doesn't. They don't even really do DLC stages outside of expansions or that one time in MKX where they thought, fuck it, let's just put the pit in the game. I don't know what exactly you would do for a Peacemaker stage or Omni-Man or Homelander. Like, the Vault Offices could be a decent one, I guess. You could have some fun coming up with it and putting cameos from other characters in the background or something like that. So discuss it in the comments. I'll see you all next time, and hopefully I can get some non-MK videos released soon, because it's been just MK because of the game, and then we've got a new movie coming out, and oh god, it never ends, it never ends.